Going to Pennsylvania, actually.
Oh, okay. So from what, Maryland to Pennsylvania?
Yeah, but oddly, the city I'm moving to is like 0.3 miles shorter to work than I am now. Like it's the same amount of distance, so I lose
Okay.
nothing.
I'm doing okay. I'm tired. I ate some shrimps earlier at the Oaks with Christina's family and had shrimps about this big, some Forrest Gump shrimps. They're huge. But
Gump shrimp.
I'm still dealing with my dog situation. I've had some weird
Hmm.
stuff come up with that still that I'll just get into a little bit. Like there's been some times where I thought I saw something go under the car outside, and then I looked, nothing was there, but it was like I saw a tail really quick. There's another time where I was at my computer and I saw something go under the bed really quick, and there was nothing around. We have other ones, but they weren't anywhere around. And I actually looked under the bed and nothing was there. Like, so it's like now I'm seeing ghost Jack hologram dogs or something. But it's strange. But I've been told by different people, that they will visit you and give you synchronicities and strange things when they pass away. And, I'm just
I
trying to take
believe
it
that
in
too.
stride and be positive about it, even though it's still depressing on some levels. And then I'm like, well, do I need to get him a new body? And I don't really want to go through a puppy thing right now, so I'm not. But maybe in the future, it's like, do I need to do Frankenstein here and, get a puppy he can possess or what? So all kinds of thoughts. But losing a dog when he's been with you for 16 years and I was a hermit with him for many years at Silver Lake. So it's just rough. But it's definitely gathering stories from other people who have strange dog stories and some guests and stuff like that who may be coming on to discuss some stuff in the future. But let's get to our guests. First off, you listen to United Public Radio. Tonight's guest, Marilyn Evans. How you doing, Marilyn? Great to have you here.
Well, thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here.
Great to have you here for sure. And, that's pretty much what I've been going through with the dog situation. And, it affects you on so many different levels. Like, I guess I knew it was going to happen at some point, but I guess I didn't think it'd be so strong. Like, it's like, God, it's rough.
Sometimes people don't understand how hard it is losing a pet because they think, well, it's not like it's a brother, sister, mom, or dad, but you're so close to them. They're so much a part of your life. It's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So I know in your bio it says you're a priestess of Wicca and one of the original founders of the Heartland Pagan Festival. What is the Heartland Pagan Festival? Is it still going or is it not anymore? What's going on?
In 2 years, well, this year before last, in 2000, the year 2000, we were going to have our 35th anniversary. It's been going on for 35 years. It started out. Are you ready for a long story? Can you tolerate a long story?
Sure.
We were there was a pagan magazine here in the Kansas City area that was called The Rune, and these two ladies were editors of it, running it, and some of us pagans, witches, and folks contributed some money to help it keep going, and they had a picnic to sort of celebrate all the people who had been donors. And while we were at this picnic, we were all bemoaning the fact that we couldn't go to Pagan Spirit Gathering, which is a big pagan festival that was up in, I believe in those days it was in Wisconsin. And we were all, saying, we don't have the time, we don't have the money. So we uttered this incantation, which was, let's have our own festival. So we thought it would be like a 20-person pagan pasture party where we'd have a big bonfire and sit around and tell stories and, do whatever. And so somebody from our area said, we can, let's get some of the Lawrence folks involved. And one of the Lawrence people said, well, I can get Starhawk to come. And we thought, oh, okay, big, major, nationally known author. And so suddenly it went from being, 20 people in a pagan pasture party to over 100 or so, somewhere in the vicinity of 100. And we had no idea what we were doing. And suddenly we had this thing where we were going to have a feast and we had musicians coming. And some fairly famous people like Amber Kay and Peter Soderbergh, Peter, better known as Peter the Blue Fairy, and Paul Burrell, and who wrote a herbal book, a magical herbal book, and just showed up. They weren't invited guests or anything. They paid their money and came. And if you know anyone who's ever done a convention or a festival or anything like that, you know everybody loses money the first year. Well, we didn't, because we were so cheap. And our treasurer, every time we asked her for money, she said no. And then we thought, okay, wait a minute. Can we get it donated? Can we get it for free? Do we really need it? And if we really need it, what's the cheapest we can get it? So we ended up with enough seed money to do it a second year. And then my husband and I, we weren't yet married, but we were, pretty close. The next year, we after 2 years, we moved aside and other people started running it. And it's been going on ever since. And the second year, we had Raymond Buckland and Scott Cunningham as our guest speakers.
Okay, I've heard of them for sure.
Yeah, pretty famous. Both sadly gone now, but wonderful people. Each and every one of them were wonderful, wonderful guests, wonderful people. And it's still going. Last year, we had to cancel it. They had to cancel it. I'm not actively involved in the leadership of it, but eventually we ended up, the pagans in the area ended up buying pagan land. So the Gaia Retreat Center is where it is now every year, and also the Gaia Goddess Gathering, which Carrie Moonstone started as she really thought the festival was great, but she thought there should be something that was a women-only kind of space. And she started the Gaia Goddess Gathering, and I had the great honor of being their featured speaker in 2019, and got to do a lecture on Hecate as the crone and her attributes. And in my case, I was talking about the attributes of nurturance, forgiveness, and what's the other one? Nurturance, forgiveness, and compassion, and how crones relate to those things, and how the goddess empowers those things. So it was a lot of fun. I hadn't been to a Gaia Goddess Gathering in several years, but this year, last year and this year, Heartland will be. Last year it was canceled. This year it will be virtual. But I believe by September, when they plan to do Gaia Goddess Gathering, it will be in person. The camp is slowly opening up, and so they'll be able to, now that people are getting vaccinated, we'll be able to have an actual festivals and gatherings again. So we're quite looking forward to that.
I've never been to one, but I've been to a Renaissance festival,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to go to powwows with Christina, my fiance, but we kind of haven't because of COVID. I think those are kind of coming back a little bit at a time, but these sound pretty interesting too. I think the picture I shared on your thing was actually from it, because it said it under it. I'm pretty sure it was. But explain it to me. Is it kind of like a really weirder Renaissance festival?
What we started out doing, and what it pretty much still does to a large extent, there are public rituals, and there are drumming and dancing every night, big bonfires, lots of drumming and dancing. There are classes and workshops. One of my favorite workshops that I've ever given, there were two that my husband and I loved giving. One was the agony and ecstasy of the priesthood, about how hard it is to lead a coven or have students or teach people. And then another one of my favorites is Hexes, Curses, and Damnation. And it's about the role of magic and justice, and how when you have no way to protect yourself, when is it appropriate to turn to magic? Because if the leader of your tribe is prejudiced and not helping you, and if you have no recourse, the court of last justice is the gods. And so there are times when you don't lie down on the ground with a T-shirt on that says welcome and make a doormat of yourself. You actually fight back. And if the only way you can fight back is magically, then you have to do that. But you also have to understand the consequences of, if you ask for justice and you are in the wrong, the gods will take you seriously and they will give you justice, and you may not like the result. So you have to you have to be sure you're on the right side of the issue.
One of my first books I had, it was in high school, and I didn't know anything about this kind of stuff. It was that Raymond Buckland big blue book.
Big blue book, yes.
And I had bullies at school, and I did a spell that protected me with a jar, and you put stuff in it and bury it or something. And there was a bully after me really bad, like crazy. He had like pictures of Hitler in his locker.
Oh.
Crazy. Like it was like I was on his list. But anyway, we fought and all this stuff. But eventually he came to my work and begged for forgiveness and asked for forgiveness. Wow. It was really weird. That was, I think, maybe from the old Buckland book, perhaps. Yeah. But sometimes I wonder if that old jar is still buried there. I don't know, in Georgia. But I mean, I have Christian roots. I love Norse stuff. I love Native American spirituality. I think, knowledge is power. I like to learn. And I don't know a lot about, definitely probably know more about all these subjects than I do as far as Wicca and things like that. But I find it interesting, and I've had other people on for sure. It's just fun to discuss other belief systems and learn. Because it's definitely, and me, myself, the reason I do the show is, I had testicular cancer when I was 17 and went through chemo. And my dad died a year or so later after I was healed from that. And I started reading a lot of weird books on Druidism, shamanism, probably Wicca stuff, whatever I could get my hands on, because I was like, what in the hell? Why is my life like this? Why is it so, shaped up? And then I started having really weird experiences of seeing strange, like, stuff in the sky with witnesses at different homes that I lived at. Light beings, that's a big one that I've seen with my physical eyes, beings of light. So that's what led to doing this show, and I just try to use it to learn, what the heaven happened to me. I used to say, what the hell happened to me, but let's stick with heaven. Keep it positive.
A lot of people who become interested in lots of different kinds of spirituality are frequently trying to find, some explanation for, what's going on? What is the universe about? What is, who am I? What is happening? And where are we? I just wanted to mention very quickly, after my husband and I stopped, being heavily involved in the Heartland Festival, we thought, now that we've survived this, let's go to some other festivals. So we went to Elf Fest, which was wonderful. That was in Ohio, I think. We went to Dragon Fest out in Colorado, and I think sadly Dragon Fest is not going on anymore. I'm not sure about that. But one of the places that I went was to Starwood, and it's Starwood is kind of a consciousness festival. It's not strictly speaking pagan, and it's amazing. And I had the great joy of getting to meet Timothy Leary at that, and awesome person. And again, sadly, he has passed, but he was amazing, and just a fine human being, and on top of everything else. But
that still goes on. Those festivals or conventions or whatever, they still happen.
As far as I know Heartland will go on next year. I'm pretty sure of it. I don't know about Starwood. I haven't really checked into it in a while.
What is Elf Fest?
Elf Fest was a wonderful kind of pagan festival. It was delightful. It was very very low key, very kind of sweet and comfortable, and bonfires are a big thing, and drumming is a big thing, and divination and magic are big things. But at Starwood, they have a bonfire the size of a house, because they have a lumber yard not far from there, and they take a lot of their scrap lumber and they build this huge bonfire. But if you go for no other reason than drumming and dancing and bonfire, then it's absolutely worth it.
Definitely sounds like fun. But I definitely would check it out for sure. Me and Christina want to get an RV at some point and go to a lot of this stuff. So I'll go to UFO stuff. I'll go to this
Mhm.
guy stuff. I'll do it all. I'll do it for sure. Get an RV. UFO ones creep me out. I'll go to them though because I
Yeah.
just worry about who else is there. You know, government men in black or something weird watching you there. And I've heard stories, but I still want to go to a few. I just want to be careful with the UFO ones for sure because there's some weird ones that you may not want to go to. Well, that's the subject I've been into for many years as well as the UFO subject. And that gets very, I've had people that are still in the military talking about the subject on here that have written books about it. Robert Salas, who wrote a book about UFOs and shutting down missile silos and stuff. So that subject definitely gets wild and trippy for sure. But as far as some of the beings in Wicca, I mean, explain, I guess, is there like a pantheon of, like, I know there's like a horn god. That's kind of Celtic too, though.
It kind of depends. There are a lot of different kinds of paganism, and Wicca is kind of open-ended. It tends often to be Celtic, but my personal goddess is Pomona, who is the Roman goddess of the orchards. She's sort of the spirit of the giving tree, if you've ever read the Shel Silverstein book. And I tended to be more drawn to the Roman. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze.
That's okay. Bless you.
Pollen is unbelievable here, and my cat is trying to walk on my keyboard, so that's exciting.
It's been like in the 50s in Florida at night in May, which is kind of that's colder than usual. So I like it.
Yeah, we've had nearly winter weather here too. It's very unusually cold.
Pretty crazy weather, but we're finally going to get some heat. But I totally lost my train of thought. My train of thought was the goddesses. Yes, gods and goddesses. Most Wiccans believe in a god and a goddess, and just a balanced world. Some believe in many deities. Some believe that there is, I am not calling on all the energy in the universe. I am only calling on the energy that is associated with love. So I'm calling on Aphrodite, or I'm calling on a protector of young women. So I'm calling on Bridget, or Bridget, the Irish goddess of blacksmithing, and she had some charming attributes. Bridget does. She became a. They loved her so much in Ireland that she became a saint, and they didn't give up their goddess. They turned her into a saint. But she had the charming attribute of her bathwater became beer, and wherever she walked, flowers would come up in her footsteps. So that was kind of cool. But there are different deities, usually a balance of male and female, and different people will have different deities that they're drawn to. I once gave a lecture series, and one of the talks I gave was the European goddess, not as she is necessarily depicted, but as she was actually worshipped. And I did a comparison of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Hecate, and Bridget, three, one Greek, one Irish, one Christian. And their attributes were so similar that you had to essentially think of them as a goddess, a European goddess, because they were so much the same in so many ways. Each of those gods or goddesses have different attributes contained within them. There's the maiden, mother, and crone. There's the young man, the father, and the sage, or the hunter or warrior as the young man. And the Romans kind of had that distinction as well. They had Quirinus, who was sort of the young man who was the farmer, but when he went to war, he became associated with Mars. And Mars was an interesting deity. He is, I keep saying was, but because I'm thinking historically, but a lot of people still worship these deities. Who was it? I can't think of his name. A pretty famous pagan writer who said, I think some of these gods should be retired. And I go, no, not Mars, because he is the patron of warriors, but also of anyone who puts their life on the line for the people. And that would be police officers, firefighters, paramedics, anyone who runs toward danger to help people. And he is the deity that looks after these people, gives them courage and strength and all these things. So, I think these deities of old are still useful. You just have to know how to use them correctly.
Yes, and who's does Chiron part of that? Where does that ring a bell? The centaur dude,
Yeah.
I know there's some astrological stuff with him, but I know
Right.
something about a wounded healer.
He's Greek, and he was a teacher and a healer, and he was associated with medicine and with teaching. And I've always thought it would be fun to do a series of mashup paintings that show the Greek mythology with the British traditions, to show like the Minotaur in his labyrinth would be a Minotaur in a British hedge maze, and the guys punting on the river, the British schoolboys punting on the river, but Charon, the centaur, would be their teacher. And then show Hercules in retirement with Cerberus, the three-headed dog, sitting on the lion skin at his feet while he's sitting in front of his fireplace with his club over the fireplace as his retired weapon. I just thought that would be hilarious, but
I think there's some story with Chiron and some woman or something. I'd have to look it up, but there's some kind of story where him and a woman heal each other, something like that, something weird.
Not familiar with that one, but I wouldn't doubt it.
I could be wrong. I like Pan a lot too, since I'm a Capricorn. He's interesting, and sometimes I wonder, is that like a Bigfoot connection? The weird, Bigfoot stuff. We have shows about those all the time. Those are kind of forest creatures, not Pan per se, maybe, but they're just still weird, hairy things in the woods, and that's fascinating.
Not always in the woods, though.
And as a Capricorn, the Pan thing, that story is just really bizarre. I found I don't know where I saw this, but I've told it before. It's kind of weird and a little vulgar, but supposedly the Capricorn story is the gods caught Pan self-pleasuring and somehow punished him and threw him in the Nile River and gave him a serpentine tail for the dark unconscious. And I don't know, I've read that somewhere. It's been a long time. I don't remember where, but Pan does have a fish tail in the Capricorn thing, so I don't really know. I'd have to really dig on the internet to find out more, but the Capricorns are weird. I can attest for it.
There are some. I go to a lot of museums, and I'm very much in love with classical pre-Christian sculptures and stories and writings and things like that. Yes. And the ancient Greek and some of the Roman sculptures are really racy when they depict Hercules as one of them, and because Hercules had more than one club, if you know what I mean.
Yes, and that big line drawing, wherever that is.
Yeah,
that's kind of vulgar, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, sure. But the fauns and the satyrs are often depicted as being just pretty wild, doing all kinds of. But if you ever have been to Pompeii, or if you ever get to go to Pompeii, the phallus was considered a very good luck symbol, and it meant prosperity and all that stuff. And there are lamps and bell chimes and wall hangings that are phalluses all over Pompeii.
I've seen that. I think I've seen pictures of that, like on Facebook or something. One over the door.
yeah, and it's prosperity, and it's making not only your family increase, but also making your money increase.
Yes, definitely. And so I don't know the situation I'm in right now, and maybe I'm kind of curious what you would think about this. As I'm with my fiance Christina, and her grandmother is 90 or 91, and she's going through dementia and hospice and stuff. So that dementia energy, I had Don Webb on, and he said it makes people feel kind of crappy when you're around it. Like there's weird energy and anxieties here. And she's going through the death process, so we feel it too. But I mean, some days I'm like, my gosh, this is a lot.
It's
weird things.
It's hard to face. Facing death is tough because we don't want to let go. But if you're born, you're going to die. And finding the way to the portal is sometimes it's a tough path. And you can help people find that way. Hospice especially, those people are very good at helping people ease their way to the, I think of it as the Crone's Cauldron, or as the cave where the wise people live. And the cave is supposed to represent both the tomb and the womb. It is, we're born and we return to, we're born from the earth, we return to the earth. We're born of the mother, we return to the mother. And it's hard to let go of people, because not for them so much as for us. We don't want to lose our family and our loved ones, and especially if they're really too young, or if the loss of someone who doesn't even know they're slipping away is a little difficult, because you want to say goodbye, and it's hard. It's really hard, because we want to, we want to live forever, and we want the people we love to live forever. But that's not very realistic. And when you think about it, why would you want to live forever? What do you think is after that? Do you just finally get to sleep and don't have to get up in the morning and take the trash out anymore? And that's great. That would be good enough. Or is there rebirth? Is there renewal? Is there heaven? Is there hell? Is there, what happens when you die? Another one of the lectures that I gave, I did a whole lecture series, one a month, and one of them was, what happens when you die? And I compared a lot of different cultures and near-death experiences. And one of the things that is pretty consistent is the seeing the light, seeing people that you love who are greeting you and who are guiding you. And when you get where you're going, it's what you know, only better. Like if you're an Eskimo, you go and the snow is fantastic, and your sled slides so smoothly, and it's wonderful. And if you're in other cultures, where you go is fabulous, but it's something something you're familiar with, and the people you love are there. And that's a pretty nice thing to wish for someone.
Well, from what I've seen, and I don't try to push my beliefs on anyone, I've seen weird beings of light leave my house, like people made of light, completely sober. I saw 2 leave my house like they had been inside of it and flew out the roof into the heavens, and I saw it, and I'll never forget it. Seen them a lot. I think it's God just showing me to ease my fears about death, because I've always kind of just not liked death at all, and kind of still, especially after my dog. But it's still, I think we're like, energy beings, and these are kind of like cocoons, like the movie Cocoon with Ron Howard and all that, the light beings. But and I've had a lot of loss, and I know Jay has. My dad's passed, my stepdad's passed, my grandparents, they're all passed. It's like, goodness, everybody's folding up, going home. I guess I'm next. Damn. But Jay's had it too with his family, lots of loss.
Yeah, losing my father and my brother in the same week was tough.
Oh,
that was a hard one. So yeah, I know, I feel your pain.
That sucks.
And this past year, my best friend was killed in a car wreck. She was T-boned, and it was terrible. It was really hard. And I thought we were going to be old together, but now she's gone. So that was really rough. So losing people, and I can't imagine the suffering of the people that have lost their family members during the COVID epidemic. That's so much grief and loss. I think it's going to take our world a while to heal from that, because that much loss, it kind of has an effect on the psyche of and there's a thing called, the Romans called the genius loci. It's the spirit of place. And in a place where you have lost many, many people, it kind of, it affects, I don't want to say negatively, but there is a certain sadness and a certain loss and feeling that you have that people share, they feel, they get. And I think we need to do a lot of supporting one another and looking out for each other and healing one another spiritually, because this has been a really rough past year in terms of loss.
Things still feel weird. Like they're a little better since all the weird White House stuff happened, but it's still weird. Things feel kind of crappy. It's like it's better a little bit, but still, there's just some kind of weird. I've wondered if there's a portal in this house. There's a bar. I swear I could stand at it, and every time I get goosebumps. Also, a glass blew up on it that had fruit cocktail in it. Nobody was near it, and it was just it blew up. And maybe there's a scientific reason. It wasn't hot then cold, or cold and hot or whatever. It was just like a thick crystal glass. It blew up, and no one was near it. I still try to, think about science and not go straight to the woo, as some say, to it, but it seemed kind of wooful.
Yeah, I was a research immunologist for 20 years, and then for another 20 years, I worked in the pharmaceutical and biologics industries, mainly in quality assurance, but also in manufacturing and vaccines and medicines. And thank you. My friend just brought me a glass of water. And I've been a scientist all my life. And yet, the scientist in me says, there's no such thing as magic, except magic is not paying any attention to me whatsoever. And it keeps happening. And there was a wonderful woman named Hertha who taught me how to find things. And you call to it, and you will walk right to it. And I never believe it will work, and it always does. And so who am I to, there are so much that we don't understand. And science every day finds something that we didn't know. We find something new all the time. We're big fans of NASA, and anytime something new is discovered, it's like, that's so cool. And
they've made so many weird discoveries, I can't even keep up anymore. It's like there's got to be alien. I mean, I know there is from weird things I've seen with UFO stuff, but there's just been so many weird ones I can't even keep up anymore. All these Earth-like planets and stuff like that. Well, let's try to balance it out a little with Jay. Jay, would you like to ask something?
Yeah, I actually got a good one because what you just a moment ago said. Now I have to admit I'm not a spellcaster, but I do believe in it. But I know exactly what you were talking about when you said the last few moments ago that you talk to things the way to find them. And I found I can do that, but I don't think it's spellcasting because I lose my keys and I'm like, all right, whoever has them, put them back, and I turn back where they weren't, and there they were, and I know they weren't there a moment ago. So
you may have brooches.
I have what?
Brooches. It's an Eastern European thing. A brooch is kind of like a movable black hole, and they will take your things and they will giggle the whole time they do it. And I have a friend who has a great relationship with brooches, and anytime she can't find something, she will put out a little container of whiskey and leave it for them, and she'll come back, and even though she swears she just looked in that place, it will be there. So yeah, she has issues with brooches. So
I might have to try that trick. I've never heard of that. I have a bottle of whiskey over there. That's good to know. But yeah, I swear to God, I've done that. I've actually willed myself to find things in the way you just described moments ago. So I'm like, maybe I am casting a spell. I don't know, but that's still pretty cool. Because I never heard anyone say that before.
one of the times I was doing that, you calm your mind and you call to it. And I walked by it 3 times. I was sure it could not possibly be where I thought it was and I kept walking by it and it kept saying, no, we're here. And I finally thought, okay, fine. And there it was. And it was like, it was there the whole time. Why wasn't I paying attention? It was, yeah. So
it could be a phenomenon I call item-specific myopia, where I work in retail, and sometimes I know where things are, but I could be looking right at it and not realize I'm looking at it until someone goes, "That's it." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. There it is." Yeah. But that's because there's 10,000 things in the store, so it's hard to keep focused. But that's another story. Anyway, and Jeff also mentioned earlier about, and I'd just like to ask you about the spirit world, if I can. The dog thing that you're experiencing with Jack, I was experiencing it with one of my cats. I mean, it would jump on me when I would go to bed, and there was no cat there.
Yeah.
But a cat, I know what a cat feels like when they jump on you. I'm like, a cat just jumped on me. There's no cat on me. But yeah. I know who it was. I knew I could feel it, that it was this particular animal's spirit.
Yeah.
How does that work? I mean, how do I know? It's not there, but this cat just jumped on me and I know it was him. How do I know? It's the weirdest phenomenon I've ever experienced.
There are a couple of different opinions about this. Some people believe that, you have a ghost cat. Other people believe that there's something rather like maybe a poltergeist or something that is it's the energy of that creature. The spirit itself has gone, but the energy remains, sort of like a film loop. And that's how some hauntings are kind of like a film loop. It's like this action that's caught in time that keeps happening over and over again. And yeah, I have ghost cats in my house. I've lived here 33 years, and we've had many cats. And we'll swear there's a cat on the stairs, and we'll turn around and there's nobody there. And it's hard to know which cat is the cat and which is the ghost cat. So and I think they all play together. It's hard to say. But
it's for real. I mean, I've experienced it. I really have. I mean, so I know exactly what Jeff is going through with seeing Jack run into the car. It's not. You're not going crazy. We were already there, I think. But
if you cast a magical circle, and it's supposed to contain energy and also to keep any unwanted energy out, but animals walk right through it because animals are kind of between the worlds. And a lot of times you'll have an animal as a psychopomp, the conductor of spirits to and from the world, like in leading the dead people to Hades, or the horses who take the Valkyries that take the fallen heroes to Valhalla.
Yeah.
Animals kind of are between the worlds. They don't get stuck in one place, kind of like we do. They can go back and forth. So if you have a magic circle, don't expect to keep the cat out. They'll.
Yeah. I don't expect to. It's
I
very
just
cool.
wanted to say I had a bulldog here make a weird yipping noise like my dog used to do, and the bulldogs never used to do that. Like, there's been some weird stuff, but I know there's weird stories about things that'll imitate deceased loved ones or maybe stuff. So it's good to have discernment, but not saying that's what either of ours is, but it's good to at least have that back of your head just in case. And I know I have those Brian Froud cards that have all those like fairies and stuff. They have weird stories like you were talking about. I don't know if you've ever seen those. The guy that did Dark Crystal, he made like this tarot set, and it's like weird fairy stories which seem like they may be true. I don't know. But it's neat, and it has strange stories where they steal stuff and stuff like that. It sounds familiar. I know it's not the same what you're talking about, but that for some reason I thought of the guy that did the Dark Crystal. All those fairy Muppets and stuff. He has a tarot set, fairy oracle or something like that.
Well, in Iceland, you still have to be careful of the fairies and trolls and things. They are absolutely convinced that they're there, and you have to be careful of them. Because if you make them mad, not very good things will happen to you. So you have to respect them. And, they may be spirits of place. They may be real fairies. They may be real trolls. Who knows? I'm not an expert on that.
Go ahead, Jay. I think they're out there. I've seen enough weird stuff. Definitely, I'm not doubt.
I don't doubt they're there. There's a huge amount of creatures that are in cryptozoology, but there's a question I like to ask, and you may not call it spell casting, but you ritual casting and that kind of things. You try to get things, through magic to go your way. I asked a guy long time ago about good and evil spells, and he described it as a rainstorm comes over two farms. One farmer's crops are good, the other farmer's crops are not so good. Then after the rain, the good farmer's crops are no good, and the bad farmer's crops have come back to life. And he said the one farmer would look at the storm as the spell being evil, and the other would look at it as being good. Is that kind of how that works? Because I've always, just from a layperson, I've always seen it as black and white, good and evil. And I've played, and Jeff's going to hate me for this, I've played spellcasters in Dungeons and Dragons, which is make believe, but spells either have a good effect or a bad effect. There's no in between usually.
One of the things, a lot of people want to do weather magic. And I don't know how it is where you are, but if you try to do weather magic in the Midwest, the weather's paying attention, and you can summon up something you may not be really ready for. And, if you ask for rain and you get flooding, you may have overdone it. And if you ask for, if you abuse nature will make you pay for it. So you have to, one of the things, we used to do tarot readings before we would do a spell, because we would call them environmental impact studies, because you're trying to figure out whether, should I be doing this spell? Am I interfering with the world? And if you're very, very in tune, it's funny how the more mature you get in magic and religion, and pagan religions, the less magic you do, because you are more and more in tune with nature, and you don't need to, because the world is, you're living in the world the way it should be, and you should be. And but occasionally, you may want to do a healing, or you may want to do, if it hasn't rained for a really long time and you're in serious danger of a really bad, wildfire situation, you may want to be doing weather magic. But you want to try to do as little interference as possible, because when the Farrers, Janet and Stuart Farrer, came to one of the Heartland festivals, they did some weather magic just as a demonstration, and they weren't used to Midwestern weather. And this storm came up, this huge black wall of clouds came up, and it kind of freaked them out a little bit because they were not familiar with the environment. So you have to be careful. Magic it's real enough that it can mess you up if you don't know what you're doing, or if you're not careful. That's one of the reasons that paganism, especially Wicca, does magic within the context of religion, because your mother doesn't want you to have bad things. And if you ask the mother goddess, or your mother, or your goddess, or your god to help you, they will protect you from yourself. They will try to help you do magic in a context that will keep you from hurting yourself and keep you from hurting others. So you want to do it in, if this is, the right thing to do, and if it will help people, then, let's do this. And that's my 2 cents worth.
That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I look at it from a completely different perspective, because and I know it's there and I know it's real, but for the dangerous aspects of it, I don't want to try to practice it. But I do believe that you can do good benefits with it. And I've also noticed you mentioned religion a couple times, through several religions, Osiris seems to be sort of a big thing. Is it big in the Wicca as well?
Some people are very much into Osiris. It depends on your pantheon. Some people just indiscriminately mix pantheons, and they throw different gods together, and it's like, oh my god, and God, it's like, oh my god, what are you doing? These two deities should never be together. They would never get along. But it kind of depends, and some people are just pantheists, panentheists, polytheists. It's a mixed bag. But you kind of find a deity that deities that really speak to you, that you feel close to, that you feel like you can communicate with, and that have your best interests at heart, and that you care about, and that you love, and that you can feel in your heart and feel in your mind, and they are the ones that speak to you personally. I was once doing an initiation. It was a second degree initiation for a woman who was very much in tune with Isis, and I had never really worked with Isis much, but she wanted to invoke Isis during her initiation. So I went to the library, and I found a book of ancient invocations that included some invocations to Isis and some prayers to Isis. And I chose some that would speak to her in the ways that people have spoken to her in the past, so that I would not offend her, and that I could deal with her as others have dealt with her. And it worked quite well. She was happy with that. So that's kind of, you have to respect whatever deity you're working with.
Oh, I totally agree about that. A lot of people use their gods for not, let's just say, not saintly purposes, and they're all over the place.
My enemy.
Totally agree with that. And I hate to sound again like a layperson, but you mentioned Isis. That was one of my favorite shows as a kid. It was a spinoff from the Shazam TV show, and I was just boxing up my DVDs, and that was one of the last ones I remember putting in the box, was the Isis and Shazam TV shows from the 70s, which were things I watched as a kid. So thank you for that. That just brings back good memories.
not not the terrorist organization. Just for the
No.
No, it's a different one.
It was a kids show with this girl that she was like a librarian or a teacher that she could turn into Isis the god. It was a very cool show.
On that note, just off the cuff, Kevin Smith, the guy that did Clerks and all those movies, Dogma, is putting out a new He-Man cartoon. It looks pretty good, actually. Mark Hamill is going to be Skeletor. Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I just watched the original show too, so that's pretty good. I like that.
And I like Mark Hamill. He does a good Joker, for sure. But go ahead, Jay. If you have any other questions.
Oh, the last thing I want to mention is you mentioned about you started the festival years and years ago. I go to like Star Trek conventions most of the time, and one of my favorites is Dragon Con, which is like the biggest one on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And I didn't buy tickets for this most recent thing. Was a few years ago. I went to this thing called Fairy Con here in Baltimore, which is like 60 minutes from where I'm at. And I didn't go to like the paid events where you had to have a ticket, but I went through the dealer's room and they had some really cool stuff. I bought probably a good 5 or 6 pounds worth of rocks and minerals.
Oh wow!
Walking through there, yeah. I'm a rock guy. I had geology in my first year in college, so I bought a bunch of rocks and stuff.
Have you ever been to the Tucson Rock Show? The Tucson big thing?
No, I didn't know that was a thing. My parents used to live out there until they moved back to Maryland, but that's a good thing to know.
My best friend lives in Tucson, and it's like a mega monster thing that we're. But yeah, I love science fiction conventions, and there's a small local one called Conquest, and they did. I was on a panel that was great fun. It was about Edgar Allan Poe, and I got to wear my appropriate, black thing with the Queen Victoria hairdo and the whole thing. It was great fun, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah. I'm science fiction conventions. I'm currently writing a book that I call The Iliad in Space. And
nice.
That's pretty fun. And so can I plug my book real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Marilyn J. Evans, author of Beloved Lives. It's my version of how The Mummy should have been done, the Universal Studios version of The Mummy. And it was a lot of fun to write. It took me 30 years to write it, but that was okay.
Where can we find it? Amazon?
It's Amazon.com is where it is. But you have to look for Marilyn J. Evans, Beloved Lives. Otherwise, they send you weird places. And then I have a near future post-apocalyptic coming of age story in a compilation called Undeniable. Writers address climate change, and my novella is in that. It's called Wasting Water. And then I had a mystery called The Gingerbread House. It's about a public witch who solves a mystery and finds love. And that is, it was on Tapas.io. I released it as a serial, but I've taken it down now, and I'm going to probably try to release it as an ebook on Amazon. But I haven't converted it over quite yet, so I'm still working on that. But I'm having fun writing some short stories and other stuff. But I did the lecture that I did on Hecate. I'm hoping to publish that someplace. I haven't decided where yet, but it was a lot of fun to do research on, and I included the information about the only animal that has menopause besides humans are whales, and that's pretty fun. And the grandma whales act very much like human grandmas, and it's pretty fun. They don't knit quilts or anything, but
I would hope not. That would be kind of weird.
They don't knit quilts or
I've heard of the Hecate. I've heard. Did I say that correctly? I know I've had guests mention her before, but what is she from? Roman, or what is her?
She's
story?
Greek. She's Greek.
Okay.
Okay. She's the goddess of the crossroads. People used to bury dead people at the crossroads who were criminals or bad guys because they figured Hecate would take them away. And she has 2 torches, and she's often depicted as being veiled. And she is the sort of, if no one else loves you, if no one else forgives you, if no one else will have you, Hecate will still take you. And she has these
like to the underworld or something. I mean,
she takes you with her. She travels through the night, and she has hounds that bay, and and she's pretty amazing. I like her very much. She's cool.
She a little creepy, which I mean, some people say I'm a little creepy, so I can't really.
She's a little creepy. She's a little
She is.
scary.
Sounds but neat. There was someone that said something about you say her name and stomp or something I heard on a show. I don't remember when, but I've definitely heard of her, but I never remember.
That's possible. She's one of the triple goddesses. She Selene and Luna. What's the other one? Artemis. She's the dark of the moon, and Selene is the new moon, and Artemis is the full moon. Also the huntress.
I'm kind of curious, do any gods from the pantheons about anxiety? Because that's something we deal with a lot here is anxiety. And I came across, I can't remember now, but some Roman god that was like anxiety. But I guess my question would be, I'm trying to find one to banish that one.
Get rid of the anxiety.
Yeah.
I'd have to think about that.
Like deities with that. Like, is it like a big dark deity that feeds off everyone's stress and anxiety, like Ghostbusters?
I've got a great god for you. The Garuda. It's Nepalese. It's from Nepal, and the Garudas are these kind of demons. But if you're going to have a demon, you want the demon on your side, and so the Garuda takes care of you. So it's the demon that's in your corner that makes all the other bad stuff go away. So Garudas are very cool.
Yeah. My friend Andrew Colvin, who I've wrote books with, he's known as the Mothman photographer. He kind of says that Mothman may be that or have a connection or something like that. And he gets into some weird Mothman stuff in his books, but he's mentioned that bird before.
Yeah.
And, I may have seen that bird too at Ripley's. Me and Christina went to Ripley's, believe it or not, the auditorium. And I think there was some weird Garuda thing in there. It's definitely interesting. And Thunderbirds and Native American lore and stuff like that. Oh, one thing I want to say real quick today that happened that I meant to mention just real quick. It's not that long. Al Going Back, OWL Going Back. He's a horror author that writes Native American novels and intertwines horror. He has a good one about Coyote that's really creepy that came out on some awards. But he wrote me and told me a pet story today about his dog and a moving can of tuna. It was just good to hear from him that he took the time to write little old me and tell me, that we'll see our animals again in heaven from the native point of view.
Coyote is a great character, one of the trickster gods.
I love it. I feel I have an attraction to it. 2 women who've been on the show did the shawl of Coyote on it for me. Ooh. They have native roots and I have it, but those stories are crazy and I definitely like it. And Loki and stuff like that. I like that.
Yeah. The problem with the trickster gods is a lot of times the tricks end up on them, so
get burned. You get burned for sure, but the Coyote. I mean, I have some of those stories of folklore. There's some crazy stuff in there that's vulgar and weird, and I know there's even a coyote and a hairy man story. Like it's like a Bigfoot kind of. I'd like to dig that one up again, but there is a hairy man and a coyote folklore story, so kind of alluding to coyote chilling with Bigfoot, which is always fun, I'm sure.
That sounds very cool. That sounds very cool.
Yeah, definitely. And one of my, I don't know if these particular beings may ring a bell from the Wicca point of view, and if not, that's okay. But if they do, let me know. One time I was with a friend, Brian, and we had been partying, doing stupid stuff. But and
no, say it isn't so.
We both saw, this is in my early 20s, and we both saw these small hooded beings in the woods standing around a small black box, and they're very small. And me and him both were like, "Do you see that?" He's like, "Yeah, do you see that?" And a cat that I had, a black cat, came up and jumped, and they vanished. And I don't know what they were, but I had been reading some Celtic Otherworld stuff, but maybe by Conway or Cunningham or someone that I had this Celtic Otherworld book. And there's another weird book that I think maybe by Cunningham. I'm not absolutely sure. Lord of Light and Shadow or DJ Conway. That was a weird one I was reading too. But I've been reading that kind of stuff. So I don't know if are they any small hooded beings that ring a bell that you know of?
Yeah, there are well, obviously the leprechauns, but also the pixies. Some of those folks, if you think about them, especially if you have a Celtic ancestry, a Northern European or British Isles ancestry, kind of, yeah. If you think about them deeply, it's almost like you're inviting them, and you may have seen them because they're there. You sort of invited them to show up, and cats. The cat probably would be kind of protecting you from them, because you have to be careful with some of those critters, because they will. The fairy tradition is that they will take you under the mountain, and when you come back, it's 100 years later, and everyone you knew and loved is gone, because time in the fairyland passes differently. And one of the ways that you're supposed to be able to drive them away is if you have a black-handled knife, which is what we in Wicca call an athame, and they're supposed to be afraid of that. A lot of the kind of old scary creatures are afraid of iron. And in a Roman wedding ceremony, you part the bride's hair with an iron spear tip, because it scares away the bad spirits. So iron, but the very, very oldest gods are offended by iron. So if you want to work with the very, very oldest gods, you don't use iron. You use a stone blade or something like that. So, there's a lot of tradition about the ways you protect yourselves from those creatures, those people.
I found that cat dead. He got hit by a car. He tried to, I don't know, or I don't try to blame the little hooded beans, but they're a suspect for sure.
Yeah,
that cat was a hero. That cat was
revenge.
He's a warrior.
Well, maybe a sacrifice was demanded, and he willingly gave it.
You never know for sure, but
hard to say.
Weird jawas. That's what they look like. Not exactly like them, but similar. You couldn't see their faces, that's for sure. The black box is what always creeps me out. And then I get really, being from Georgia, my dad had some preacher roots and stuff. I'm like, it's those little Satan dwarfs from Phantasm watching me. That crazy Phantasm horror movie.
Oh God, that movie is so weird.
It's like, are they Satan dwarfs spying on me? What are they? Paranoid for sure. But the Pan stuff is definitely really, really weird. I mean, there's statues of him doing goats and crazy stuff in all kinds of situations. I'd like to find out more history of how Capricorn came about. I don't know enough about it, but I'm sure there's more stuff out there on it and everything. But as far as, let's say, horned deities or entities, is that Pan one of the main ones, and Cernunnos? What are the other ones?
Cernunnos is one. There are different kinds of horned deities. They're associated with different animals. The Celtic gods are often antlered because they're like the deer. The goat horned deities or sheep horned deities are more like with the herder cultures rather than the hunter cultures. And of course, there are the cattle horned creatures, especially there are goddesses like Isis that often have the cow horns. So they're different horns for different horns for different folks. And they're depicting different aspects of of their use and their culture and their domains and what they the antler horned obviously are forest deities, but so is Pan. He's a faunal, the fawns and lives in the flora and the fauna. The flora or the greenery, and the fauna are the animals. So yeah, and Pan is definitely a forest dweller. I'm sure you've read The Wind in the Willows.
I don't know if I've read it, but I know there's a weird little cartoon or something of it.
There is, and they don't actually do in Wind in the Willows, the original written version. There's a beautiful chapter called "The Piper at the Gates of Dawn." And one of the little muskrat baby children gets lost, and they go looking for it. And they go looking for it, and they can't find it. And when they finally find them, they're safe and they're asleep, curled up at the feet of Pan. And Pan is looking out for all the little baby creatures in the forest. And the end of the chapter is, and the last best gift that was given to the people that saw him was forgetfulness, because to look on the god was a little more than most people could take. So he blessed them with forgetfulness so they wouldn't remember it, which I thought was very sweet. It's a lovely, lovely story.
I'm someone that's had some weird stuff that could be considered UFO or alien stuff,
Mhm.
and it's definitely the forgetfulness for sure. I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever been taken or anything. If so, they wiped me clean because I don't remember anything like that. But sometimes I wonder, it's like, did they? And I just don't. They wiped me clean, and I don't remember. I don't
Yeah.
think they did, but I think maybe they work with you astrally and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Yeah. It's hard to know sometimes. Sometimes the astral is it's so much a part of us. It's so real that it's hard to separate it from real world, because what is astral is real as well. And it's hard to say. It's very hard to say. I would find it very weird to think that in this entire universe that we are the only sentient beings and capable of travel outside of our planet. I would find that impossible to believe.
It's mathematically, I have to agree with you, it's mathematically impossible if you really think about it. If we're just the average in this galaxy alone throughout the universe, it's mathematically impossible that life doesn't expand everywhere. And you have to think that way in a mathematical scale, where it's like most scientists agree that's the only universal language throughout the universe. So,
Yeah. I think it's very cool that Voyager has finally gotten outside of the heliosphere, and it has sent back sounds, recordings from out there somewhere, and it's like, what is making that sound? It is so strange and weird and cool, and yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's exciting times. It would be nice if we could all travel through the stars, like on a spaceship like Captain Kirk's. That would be excellent. But
Yes.
Oh,
I think I'll be gone before that happens.
I got something for Jay. Picard season 2, The Return of Q.
Yeah, I saw some blurbs like that on the internet. That should be good.
Looking forward to that for sure. I like Q.
I've actually interacted with Q at a convention. He seems like a very nice guy. He's tall. He's like 6'3".
Yeah, it's a big character.
He's big. He's a big dude.
Yeah.
What's his name? John Lancey or something?
John Delancey.
Delancey. Okay. Definitely. So, Marilyn, have you, in your studies with Wicca or the paranormal, I mean, have you had experiences that you would consider supernatural that have occurred or that you've seen or experienced or been around?
Oh yeah. In my book Beloved Lives, one of the things that they do is a past life regression, and two of the past life regressions that are described in the book are ones that I actually did. In one, I was during this regression, I was a young preacher, and I fell off of a roof and died during a barn raising. And in another, it was so clear and so vivid. Everything I saw was from about an average person's knee height, and I could tell that I was a dog. I was this woman. It was like the 1700s, and I remember walking and my toes clicking on the marble floor, on the wooden floors, the parquet floors, and the rustle of her skirt. And I had a bed in the corner of her bedroom. And it was at the time I was very, very old, but I could remember running beside her horse. And it was so vivid and so real, and it was very strange. So past life regressions, without a doubt. Certainly magic. I've had ghost cats in my house. Divination. There was one divination that I did. I was doing a fundraising, and I was, we were doing divinations to raise money for something, I don't remember what. And a young woman came to me and she said, can you read my cards? I was doing tarot card readings, and I laid out these cards, and I thought, this is not good. And I said to her, I want you to always wear a seatbelt, look both ways before you cross the street, never go in a boat without a life jacket on, go away and come back in an hour and have someone else read your cards. And she came back in an hour, someone else read her cards, and it was all sweetness and light. And I thought, so changing someone's fate I think it can happen. I think if you can give them a warning, and I think one of the things about divination is that it is a way to help people understand what's happening and what the circumstances are. And if you can warn them and help them avoid something, if they will take your advice, and they stand a chance to have things happen better. Whatever. I've done astral projection. That was kind of interesting. I realized at one point that it's rude to be outside of your body and talking to someone. You really should be in your body when you're talking to someone, because it's not nice to not be there. But astral projection is quite fun. One night I heard this really loud bang, and it woke me up. And it turned out that it was my best friend was visiting me in her sleep, and she hit our magical boundaries that we keep around the house, and she crashed into it, and it was so loud it woke me up. That was strange. And another time, I went into someone else's dream. That was pretty strange.
I've done that.
Yeah, and they wake up yelling something, and they have no idea why they're yelling, and it's because you were thinking that in your dream. So it was
right. We have the exact same thing. We both died in our dreams. I died in his, and he died in mine, and we both were chased by the same weird mafioso guy. We don't know why. We're high school people. Why are we being chased by the mafioso? Like, we're high schoolers. We're like 11th grade year old high schoolers. And so anyway, the next day we started talking about that same dream. We're like, wait a minute. We had the same exact dream. It was the weirdest thing ever. I've never had that connection since or before, but it was cool.
Yeah, it is. It's strange to be connected with people in that way.
Yeah.
We've done healings, and that's been pretty interesting, pretty powerful. And I haven't really had an opportunity to meet any of some of the interesting creatures that live in the woods, but I'm waiting. I think the time will come. I was sitting on a long barrow in England, and it was interesting to be sitting on this long tomb. It was a prehistoric tomb, and I'm sitting on top of this long barrow, and I'm closed my eyes and I'm listening to the wind in the trees, and I could feel myself flying up off of this thing. And I thought, this is where dragons come from. Because the energy, the spirit that came up out of that long barrow just took me up into the sky and into the air, and I could feel the wind, and it was a pretty amazing experience. But I thought, okay, I understand where British dragons come from. It's this earth energy that goes toward the sky. It was amazing.
Definitely. One thing that I've had happen to me lately that's been kind of weird, I've always had a weird interaction with the sun. I was always, when I was younger, I would pass out from it when I went outside for sports and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But now I respect it more, and I try not to say anything bad about it, because it's the sun, and it's kind of like a divine manifestation of God or whatever. It's definitely weird, whatever it is. But there are times when I can look at it and close my eyes and let white light fill my body.
Yeah.
And I was in a gym, and I looked out the window at the sun and closed my eyes and let the white light fill. And I swear I saw a weird energy circle around every person in that room after doing it. It was like somehow it kind of gave me like a sight or something.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh, are you there? Oh, we lost him.
He's freezing up a little bit. Yeah.
See, he's not allowed to talk about that.
I guess not. Yeah. So sometimes we have our glitches, So well, while it's us, let me go on with something that I wanted to ask you about. I wrote down your book title, so I'm going to look at that when we get off the radio. Lots of people swear by talismans, and I'm one of them. See, these little black things are tourmaline, and they help my joints. So, what other kind of talismans can they get
I had an internet drop. For sure.
Oh, hey, he's back.
We still love you. We determined that your sun energy doesn't want you talking about it.
I know. I think so. Well,
it's private.
just to finish it, and then we'll get back to Jay's.
Yes.
I had another one happen yesterday or the day before. There's a sunroof in this house. It's a pretty big house, and there's like a thing in the, whatever it's called, Skywatch or whatever. And the sun will come through it sometimes, and I did the same thing. I let that light fill my body, and then I turned around and looked around the house, and I saw things moving everywhere in here, spears. I went down the hall to the grandmother's room, and I swear it looked like I saw like a gray alien, but not physical. But it was like a big head with strange eyes, and it was kind of like a weird sunspot, but shaped like a face. It was almost like it was peering at the door. And I've never seen a gray before, except with, in my mind's eye imagination or something like that. I've never seen one, and I'm not 100% sure, but it seemed like it was shaped like that. And then I said a prayer. And the grandmother had been in like a kind of having some dark days where she just didn't know, where she does that a lot. And I said a prayer, and then later she came back to normal. And part of me, I don't know what I saw. Hopefully it wasn't something parasitic in there. Or I've also heard those kind of beings can be helpful, like from Whitley Strieber and all that stuff, holding babies and, they're whatever. I've heard different things about those kind of beings, but I swear that's what it looked like. And it freaked me out. And I just kind of, I still keep thinking about it, but now I have this weird, like, chills all over my body. Like, it was kind of like a sunspot that was shaped like a alien gray. It was weird, but it was strange.
The sun energy is very much associated with healing. So, if you want to draw on that energy for healing, that's a absolutely good thing. It's an appropriate thing. And
some connections I've noticed with it for sure. Plus, I think we're these beings of light, so obviously that's like a big daddy being of light or whatever it is. But go ahead, Jay. You were asking about talismans or something.
Yeah, I was actually, because I'm sort of a hands-on guy, and I like talismans. Like I said, these black bracelets I wear are allegedly it's tourmaline, and it emanates negative ions that helps my joints. And I was wondering if you could tell people if they're interested in those kinds of things, because that's what I'd like, is things that ward off or make things better. Like, where can I find a talisman that makes my walking knees better or makes my back better during, heavy workouts at work? That's the kind of stuff that I like, because you can't get that from common regular medicine. If you ask them for that, they're going to hand you a handful of pills that either are going to work or are going to get you really high.
It's the magic pill is no. The first of all, food is medicine. Eating very healthy food is an important thing. But I'm not really very well versed in the magical properties of stones and metals. But there are a lot of great books out there and people who are very knowledgeable in that. Here in Kansas City at Aquarius is a wonderful store that sells all kinds of stones, and they know the attribute. The people there are very knowledgeable in that. And if you go to your local, New Age magic witch store, whatever, they know what they're doing. And my husband and I, when we used to travel, we would, wherever we went, we would, let's go check out the pagan stores. We'd see what kind of stuff was there. And there are folks who really know that stuff really well. And I'm big into amber because it's a kind of a magical stone, but and hematite will ground you. But the other, amber and jet are supposed to be the two witch stones. Every time I touch jet, I get so freaked out I can't bear it, and you have to plop a piece of rutilated quartz in my hand to calm it down again, because it just makes me totally wacko, and I don't know why. I have no idea. Maybe when I'm older I'll be able to deal with it better, but it's kind of a crone stone, and I'm old, so I should be able to handle it, but I apparently not. It's not for you, so. Too bad.
It's cool you mentioned amber. I've never had amber before. I just bought some unique amber the other night. There's a store in the Frederick Mall near me that it does minerals and stones and polished things, and it was so light. I thought it was plastic. I thought it was fake. But then I started looking at it, and then the sign said that it was some kind of amber. I forget the name of it completely. Reticulated or something. I don't know. But I'm like, I walked up to the girl. I was like, "Will this float in water?" And she's like, "I don't know." And I'm like, Well, they're $1. I'll take them. Whether they do or not, I don't care. It was one of the cool, and it really did. It felt like natural plastic, but it was former tree sap.
Yeah, it's tree resin, which is why it so often has wonderful inclusions like insects and all kinds of strange things. Occasionally there'd be a frog in one, and
yeah, this stuff is dark, but it looks like it's like one of the moons of Saturn. It's got like red and white or brown and white rings all the way around the circumference of it.
Why did you want it to float?
You ever seen a rock float? Imagine how much money you could make if you had this. I found a rock that floats. Oh. I thought that's why I asked the girl, will it float?
That's the Jurassic Park stuff. For sure.
Yeah. So yes, there are good books, and actually, even if you go on the interwebs, my favorite place to play, if you go looking up, various stones and what stones are good for this and that, there's such a wealth of information out there in the universe. It's kind of awesome. It's like the whole world is available to you in one way or another. So,
yeah, I generally do the geology thing as like a hobby now, but for an aesthetic reason. I mean, I put them around decorate my rooms with them. I have like one of those. It's just I don't think is it an ammonite? It's like an old spiral thing like Captain Kirk had on his desk. I have one of those. I have a couple of pyramid obelisk shaped minerals. I think it's really cool. And I know a lot of them do things. I don't know if I'm inviting bad things into my house now or getting the wrong minerals together, but I collect them for their aesthetic persons, and I do consider them persons. Each different stone that I have, I don't know why I do. I've always associated inanimate objects as being other beings. I've always done that.
If they speak to you and you feel good with them, then probably you're all right with them. It's like your experiences with the sun. There is the concept of spirit animals. There are things that speak to you and that they sort of choose you. And there was a guy we used to call the snake guy, and everywhere this guy went, there were snakes everywhere, and it was like and this guy didn't believe in anything magical. But he said, what is with the snakes? And they would like drop into his canoe, and they would show up in the engine of his car, and everywhere he went, he was tripping over snakes. And finally, we just sort of tentatively suggested to him, maybe snakes are your spirit animal. And he goes, huh? And he got to thinking about it, and he decided, okay, I'm going to acknowledge snakes. And they never bothered him again. It was like, he made his peace with the snakes, and they were just trying to get his attention to say, look, acknowledge us. We're looking out for you. We're your animal. And I had a friend who wanted to start a support group for people with ugly spirit animals because she got laid low by Lyme's disease, and she said,
"I might be one of them."
I have to acknowledge that the tick is my power animal because something so small can totally poleaxe you, and that is a significant power. So the tick was her spirit animal, although it is quite unattractive.
I think you might have diagnosed me. I have an extreme fear of spiders, but my favorite superhero is Spider-Man. But yet I always see spiders all the time, and they always freak me out. I mean, I like what they do. I just don't do it near me. Go eat bugs, but not near me. But maybe they're my spirit animal. I don't know, but they scare the hell out of me every time I'm in like a scary situation.
Yeah.
Christina put this behind me, and I just noticed it. I saw it at Walmart. It's like a weird black gnome for some reason. It's like a gnome.
Oh, that's what that is. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but I didn't know it was behind me. I turned around. I was like, oh, there's a gnome.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere for sure. No doubt about it. So here's my Geraldo question.
Okay.
I had the show I did for this lady that claimed she had contact with Bigfoot. She has a pen name, so I had to ask her about the pen name. That was my Geraldo question. So my Geraldo question for you is, which I'm not a big fan of Geraldo. I think he likes Trumpelgooch, so I'm not real big into him anymore. But back in the old days, maybe. But when it comes to like Christ, I know Celtic kind of has a reverence for that. What is your general consensus on on Christ? I'm sure not everyone's like the show Vikings, like spit and all that, right? I mean, is there a reverence for it? I mean, what do they view that as? Is it a different deity with a different name? Like there's Lu, the sun god, or something from Arthurian stuff. There's different things.
The teachings of Christ absolutely 100% align with the teachings of Wicca. That you should love people, that you should have reverence for things that are bigger than you, like God and gods, that you should be forgiving, that you should be compassionate. There is absolutely nothing that if you read the Beatitudes are my favorite part. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are these people who do good things. In the Old Testament, there's this whole section that is, cursed are so and so, and cursed are so and so, and cursed are so and so. Then you get to the Beatitudes in the New Testament and the Sermon on the Mount, where he says, "Blessed are these people, and blessed are these people." And it's this compassion, it's the love, it's the forgiveness, it's the gentleness, it's the feeding people, forgiving people, loving people that are unlovable. All of that, got no argument with any of that.
It's Christ consciousness, nirvana. There's different things for it. I'm sure different cultures that they call it, but nirvana, Christ consciousness. My big thing is, a lot of things about Christianity confuse me just with, the whole thing that happened with our country. But I don't really want to get into that. But as far as Christ and everything, from my experience, why I think there's truth to it, besides feeling it on some level, is when I saw those beams of light, I'm like, well, those dudes are probably getting their light from like a supervisor, and it's probably like Christ.
I like that.
So it's like I saw these glowing dudes. That's like, and if it was someone was writing the Bible when I was in it, that story would be kind of like a biblical thing, not to put myself on that level or whatever, but it was weird, and I'll never forget it. So my kind of thing is, then maybe they had Christ consciousness, or they were, so there's probably
in most cultures, when people go to the afterlife, there are creatures of light that are there for them, that are guiding them and accepting them and bringing them in. So it seems to be kind of a universal that those creatures of light, those beings of light, are there to help you, and they are there to take care of you and look after you. And if you can't see them when you're alive, you'll certainly see them at the time of your death. So nice to know they're there looking out for you,
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why I do see them. And for a while, I was like, am I dying? Why am I seeing this? But Jay, you'd be proud, not to get into politics, but I had dinner at a restaurant today with Christina's family. Not all of them were into Trump, but a majority of them were. And I had to sit there and I go, both sides suck. And they just all got quiet. And then he talked about the Chinese are invading. So that was kind of spooky.
Good to know.
So I'll believe it when I see it. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But and he was talking to like other people at the restaurant about it. Like the guy that owned it, the Chinese are invading. And I'm like, where am I? What year is it? Fear and Loathing. Fear and Loathing in Florida for sure. But those shrimp, big and things like
big shrimp. See, that's an oxymoron. It's big and shrimp. Those are two words that shouldn't go together.
Yeah, George Carlin pointed that out.
Yeah. Like tennis, it should be tunis or mixed double fourness.
Yeah.
I love George Carlin. He was hilarious.
Yeah, he was funny.
For president.
He was very, very funny.
Miss them for sure. Miss so many of those, like Sam Kinison and all those. So many good ones. It's weird if you look up Bobcat Goldthwait now. He made a Bigfoot movie called Willow Creek. It's decent. It's not bad.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's called Willow Creek. It's kind of one of those found footage kind of films. It's worth to watch. Just they go to this town that there's towns that revolve around Bigfoot sightings, and it's a real town. Willow Creek. In like Point Pleasant, Virginia, with Mothman, and there's weird towns like I don't know if there's these documentaries called Small Town Monsters where they go to all these towns and they're based on weird paranormal stuff that happened that usually roused up the police and lynch mobs and stuff. And then you go there and there's like a weird historical marker about it or a statue, and then they might have a parade about it. This weird creature, like a lizard man. There's a lizard man in North Carolina. It's crazy, but
I love that
Small Town Monsters. They have documentaries about it, and they're really good. I've had them on the show, but definitely Bobcat Goldthwait. He did another one. This one's crazy as hell. This movie, and I just look into it before you watch it to make sure you want to watch it. It's called God Bless America, and it's about this dude that has a breakdown and starts whacking right-wing radio personalities or something, but it's crazy. It's crazy. It's a comedy, but it's a dark comedy. Just you got to have the stomach for that one, but it's good. But anyway, that's the guy from Police Academy, Bobcat Goldthwait.
Yeah.
But so, well, that's good to know about Christ. I mean, in Celtic, they do kind of get. I mean, Saint Bridget and stuff. That's from Celtic, right? That's
Right.
obviously she's Saint Bridget.
Right.
There's a Christ situation for sure. So there is kind of a reverence for it, or they respect it, or whatever. In Celtic, I know I've listened to some Celtic Christian music, and it was pretty good on YouTube. And I was like, "This is pretty good. It's not bad." A lot of stuff I don't like, the contemporary stuff.
I lived in England for a couple of years. I lived and worked there, and it was really interesting how comfortably the Christian and pagan live side by side in England. The paganism is in the bones of the country, and they have all these traditions. They have the Uffington White Horse. They have the chalk characters in them that are ancient, and they have these rituals. They have the mummers and the we were in Whitby, which is famous for the abbey where Bram Stoker was inspired to write Dracula. And we were in Whitby on May Day, and we saw all the mummers that were dancing, and it was extremely cool. But they are so pagan in their bones that even though it's a Christian country and everybody's Church of England and all that kind of stuff, they don't even see how pagan they are. It was really interesting. I got invited to their Guy Fawkes night, but it was also bonfire night, and it was sort of Halloween, but it was this big. It was so pagan, but it wasn't. It was kind of amazing, and I as a pagan going to my pagan homeland, sort of, it was a really interesting experience to just live it every day. It was a very amazing experience. I was very fortunate to get to live there for a couple of years, and of course I went all over England and Ireland, and I was a tourist every day, and I went to all the ancient Roman sites, and and it was really fabulous. I got to go to Bath, where they have the ancient temple to Solanus. It's kind of a Romanized Celtic god, and one of the cool things in Bath was it's been a bathhouse for about 1,000 years roughly, and they had curses. They were lead plates that had a curse written on them, and then they drive a nail through it and throw it in the water. And it was things like, "Curse the person who stole my clothes." So if I don't know who it is that stole my clothes while I was in the bathhouse, but I cursed them, and here's the lead plate to prove it. And it was kind of hilarious. I don't know whether it worked or not, but I thought it was funny.
Just real quick, there's a movie I saw that had that town from Stoker. It was an Irish movie. It had Irish budget funding. It was called Boys from County Hell. It's on Shudder. Excuse me. It's a vampire horror movie, but it took place in that little town, and there's a bar and stuff, and it revolved around that town or whatever. But and the vampire woke up from a field or something. It was pretty good, not bad. Better than most horror movies, that's for sure. A lot of them are trash, but it was worth watching. That I know Dacre Stoker is an author who is a blood descendant of Bram Stoker, and he has a
Oh, really?
vampire book that's supposed to be pretty good. They're turned into a movie that's about, yeah, look at his Dacre Stoker, Dacre Stoker. And he's
Mm-hmm.
got a few. So, but there's a newer one that I know is about him meeting Dracula, Bram actually meeting Dracula in this tower. And the whole book's about that. And they're supposed to, it's kind of like a prequel maybe or something, but I know they're making a movie about it at some
Oh,
point.
that's fun.
There's also a movie, I think Viggo Mortensen's still got to be in it, called The Demeter, about that ship ride with Dracula to London. The whole thing's
Oh, wow. I love Vigo. Vigo is like, oh, he's my man. I love him.
I hope he's still in it. I saw that, but it could have changed. Yeah, I'll look it up real quick. I like him. He's a good actor.
One of the things I've been doing recently is I've been working as an editor for a friend of mine, Dennis Young, who writes books, and he thought he was going to write a standalone book, and it's called Bloodlines, and it's about a girl who becomes a 16-year-old vampire during World War II. She's in England during the Blitz, and he ended up, and I'm credited as the editor on that book, and interestingly, the character had other ideas about that being a standalone book. So he now has, he's going to be releasing, I think next month, another book called Julia, and it's a sequel that he didn't mean to write, and now he's got a third book that seems to be demanding to be written. So we'll see what it's called. I think it's called Princess of Darkness, although that may change. But yeah, so and usually he writes military science fiction, but he's been writing this vampire series that he never meant to write. It just made him do it. So
he made the classic writer's mistake. He titled his first book plural, and it had to turn into more.
Yeah, there you go. Now, I unfortunately, Gingerbread House, it's demanding a sequel, and I don't want to write it, but I'm going to have to write it because it said so. Books take on lives of their own. You can't resist them.
That movie that I was talking about, The Last Voyage of the Demeter, I'm not sure if Vigo's in it anymore, but it's by Andrew Dahl. He did that Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark and some other stuff, but in Troll Hunter. But it's called The Last Voyage of the Demeter, and they say Vigo may star in it. They asked him, but I don't think they ever said any more about it. But that's the name of it, Last Voyage of the Demeter.
That sounds fabulous.
Yeah, it'll be
it sounds great.
They're supposed to be doing some new Nosferatu movies. The guy that did The Witch, that weird movie that was pretty good, and he did The Lighthouse. He's supposed to do a new Nosferatu, and then there's supposed to be another Nosferatu with Doug Jones, the guy that plays Abe Sapien and Hellboy and stuff, where he's Nosferatu. So hopefully those come out. I'm looking forward to those. I like that stuff for sure.
Yeah,
but Bloodlines was the book you were talking about. Your friend did in your bio. Cool. I'll have to look those up for sure.
Yeah, he self-publishes. If you go to Dennis Young, I think he has a DennisYoung.com. You can order his books directly from him. But he does a lot of conventions, and so last year was pretty rough on him because so many of the cons got canceled. And but hopefully, I think even Kansas City Comic-Con has been canceled this year. It's all going to be virtual, and that's too bad. But cons are starting to open up again, and I love going to cons. I just think they're great fun. My husband and I actually did a paper at the American Society of Quality back when I had a real career before I stopped having that career and did other things. We went to Disneyland, and then because my company was paying for me to be at this meeting, we had to move to a cheaper hotel because we wanted to stay an extra day to go to Harry Potter World. And we were at a hotel where they were having a zombie convention.
Okay.
A horror and zombie convention. And there was a poor family that was there from Europe, had no idea what was going on. And it was so great. After all that Disneyland sweetness and light, to be surrounded by zombies was great. And they had this big flashing street sign that said, danger zombie crossing. And they had taken over this entire bar down the street. And it was fabulous. It was so great. And all the people were in costume, and it was fabulous. And then we went to Harry Potter World the next day. And It was just great. We had a
Nice.
wonderful time.
Sounds like a fun time for sure. I'd like to go to some horror conventions. I've never been to one, but they seem like they'd be fun. Hang out with some Bruce Campbell and stuff like that. I'd like to do that.
Oh yeah.
Anytime is fun when you can hang out with people of a like mindset as you. I mean, my thing is Star Trek and Star Wars conventions, and it's the same thing. It started out in the '70s, and we can really actually thank books. There were book conventions back in the early '70s and early late '60s and what have you, and the market for those were starting to die out. So Star Trek had just been picked up, even though it was only 79 episodes, had been picked up for syndication, so you could get it in reruns for the next several decades. So because of that, and the book conventions, Gene Roddenberry get on in that. He started those 1 or 2 or 3 first 4 conventions of Star Trek. Without that, we wouldn't be having this whole. Everything has a convention. Doesn't matter what it is. I mean, name a hobby. There's a convention. You can go anywhere in the country for that.
Yeah, and I think it's great. And I just want to say, props to you guys. I have to say, when I found on Facebook, I found the Church of Mabus, I have to say, I felt like I had found my people because this is my tribe. You like all these crazy, things that I love. I just think it's great. And so, yeah.
So did you ever sit back and go, what is the Mabus word? Did you ever reflect on that at all? Because that's a controversial word that no one really knows what it means, but everyone guesses what it means. That Nostradamus said. One day I was stoned and I was going to make a metal band named that. Then I saw some UFOs. I didn't do a metal band. It turned into a radio show. It was just like Bruce Campbell playing with the Necronomicon in a bad way, probably, but that was just me being controversial, like Alice Cooper or something, or Church of Mabus. It was off the cuff, but no one knows what that word really means. They can guess until their head blows off. They don't know. Nostradamus knew, but he never said it meant Antichrist. He never said that. John Hogue, this white dude, made a documentary. He said it, and then he banked on it. He's still banking on it. I'd say maybe us.
You got to be careful of your sources.
Yeah.
I try not to examine some things too closely.
That's good. I don't know what the hell it means. No one really does. Yes, it was just me being shocking. I used to be a shock rock. Now I'm not so much anymore. I'm tired. But we got about, let's say, 9 minutes. Maybe we should start closing out a little bit. And then so Amazon is the best place to go for your books, right? Yes, what's your name under there?
Yeah, Marilyn J. Evans. I have a blog too if you want to go there. It's marilynjevans.com/blog. And I talk about gardening and writing mostly. I really don't talk much about Wicca. That's something that's I've been thinking about doing a blogs about witchcraft and religion and polytheism and all that kind of stuff, but I'm lazy and I'd rather be gardening and writing novels. So I don't even teach anymore, although I might be persuaded if I once had students after a Wicca 101 class that they wouldn't leave, and they ended up becoming a teaching coven because they wouldn't leave my living room. There were like 4 of them, and they wouldn't go home until I promised I'd teach them. So, I can be strong-armed, but but mostly I'm lazy and I don't want to, so there's that.
Well, you're retired now, right? Is that what you said? Yep. So enjoy it. The earth is, who knows what's going to happen, all this crazy. So the best thing to do is enjoy it for sure. You did your time, so
yeah.
Slack away.
Yeah.
For sure. But you're still doing creative stuff, so that's good. You're doing this and raising consciousness. That's what this is about, and that helps. A lot of people probably hear pagan and pagan, but they have a reverence for Christ, so that's so hopefully that helps someone out there who's like, oh, pagans. We had Stephen Flowers on, and he talked about Germanic runes, and that dude's been around for a long time. He was a good interview, and he helped save dogs and things like that. But he would read some of the stuff from the Eddas and Eddas, or I messed up words.
Eddas.
Yeah, Eddas, and he would do it in that like the actual like, like the accent. And it was good. It's on the site. You can everything
Yeah.
up there is for free to listen to, but really, really good interview with him. Then we had Don Webb on. That was about vampire magic. That was weird, but good. He tied that into to shamanism. I'm still figuring it
Yes.
out, but it's Don Webb's a trip for sure. But just about the energy storing and stuff like that. We
Mhm.
got the Bram Stoker and stuff like that, so that was fun. So we've been doing some good ones, and we appreciate it so much. It's great to have you on the show. Thanks that you found some kindredness with us. That's good. Follow your weird and keep on marching and enjoy your retirement. And
Thank
if you
you.
write anything, let me know. I'll share it for sure in the group or on my page or whatever for sure.
All right. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
It's been great. Thanks so much, and we appreciate it. And have a great weekend.
You
Yeah,
too.
thanks.
Bye
All
bye.
right, everybody. You're listening to United Public Radio, and let's see here. Gosh, I always forget who my guests are coming up, and that's bad. It's my memory. But no, I know who it is now because I made the page, and I need to make Jerry Avalos's page, and I forgot to do that. I made the other person's page. The next guest, till wait, let me make sure it's the right date and everything. No, this guy's the 28th. Till James Glenn, stuntman, actor, and fight choreographer and novelist. And this dude's been in all kinds of stuff. Spencer for Hire,
Oh wow.
Guiding Light, published in Weird Tales. He put out a new book, A Weird Western, A Cowboy in Carpathia, that just won some Pulp Factory Award. But that'll be a good one. That's coming up after Jerry. Jerry will be our next guest. I got to put his page up. Jerry Avalos. That's a friend of mine that's been around for a while, so who knows? He asked what we're going to talk about. I was like, I don't know. We're going to free ball it, so just be ready. Who knows what we're going to talk about? But
Yeah.
then the other guy, you'll be here for this dude too, right? Till James Glenn, stuntman, actor. Wait, he was in Showtime. Something about Showtime, including Citizen Toxie. That's like some weird Toxic Avenger movie. Those are weird as hell. Street Fighter, some web series. So we'll have a good time. He's known as the urban swashbuckler. I don't know.
Oh, cool.
I don't know what that's about. He's a swashbuckler. So that'll be a good one for sure. And well, we got about 5 minutes, and let's see what's going on with Star Trek. Did you see Picard the first season? It was okay. I wouldn't say it was the best thing ever, but I mean, it wasn't terrible or anything.
I watched it. It didn't suck, but it didn't wow me either. Yeah.
I'm hoping with Q, it picks up the pace. It's got to
bring some life back into it. Yeah, his episodes sometimes were good, sometimes they sucked in the original series. So it all depends on how he acts, how he takes the character, and how they write him. You know, they could ruin it. You never know.
They'll do good, hopefully.
I hope. Yeah,
I liked it.
I like John Delancey. I like the character Q. I just like I said, sometimes he sucked. I mean, there are some episodes with Q that are just I don't get them. Like they have him.
Wham doesn't like him at all. She don't even like to watch any of the episodes with him in it. I don't know why, but
he introduced him to the best bad guy as the Borg. He took them there, so that's kind of cool.
There is a novel about Q, a Star Trek called something. There's one, but I'd like to get the book. There's some fiction book with Q in it. There's a few, I think, but there's what are those? I'm looking them up real quick. I wouldn't mind getting some Star Trek Q ones and reading them. Here's one with him in it, a lot. The Q Continuum, book 3 of 3, Q Strike, Gregory Cox.
I have some of those. I had some of those before my book got thrown away.
Oh no, I might get them one year. Perhaps. We'll see. I have so many books I'm supposed to be reading, so probably won't, but maybe one year. There's Q with a puppy.
Q with a puppy? That's an acronym. That's got to be a Voyager story.
Maybe so. So he was in Voyager too.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, sometimes.
Okay, there's some weird picture of him with like looks like a hologram. That one's weird, with like asteroids. That one's kind of creepy. He's tripped, but do they ever have any of his other family on there? Like, he has other people in his race. They're all like weird tricksters.
I don't think the only other time you see another Q is once or twice. He has a kid later on Voyager, I think. Like a young Q tries to train with the crew.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out. I've seen some of the Q episodes, but not all of them for sure. Hopefully it's good in Picard. I know. I think I have a season to watch of Discovery. I haven't seen yet. There's a season that I haven't watched yet.
And there should be 2 and a third one coming out later this year, I think.
Yeah, I'm behind on that one, I think. And I know there's a Strange Worlds that's supposed to be coming. It's another Star Trek. They're probably going to overmilk Star Trek. Hopefully it's not too much Star Trek.
I think those are already out. Those are just like little shorts, like little 3 or 8 minute shorts.
There was some weird cartoon too that was kind of like I don't know if it was any good. I didn't watch it, but there was some Star Trek cartoon.
Yeah, that's out already too. What is that called? Below Decks.
They tried to.
It's called Star Trek Below Decks. It's like animated, like what happened on the Enterprise Below Decks.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen Solar Opposites on Hulu. That's a weird cartoon from the Rick and Morty guy, but these alien kids keep real humans in this giant hamster cage in their room and make them do.
I know. It sounds like Fantastic Planet.
Like Mad Max stuff.
Yeah.
Fantastic Planet. I've heard of that.
So these blue giants use humans as like pets and slaves. It's really weird.
That's that weird cartoon. That's really weird. Yeah, that's a good one for sure. I've seen that.
Yeah. And then the one human slave pet steals one of their learning devices and takes it back to a den of humans, and they all start getting smarter, quicker, faster. Yeah, it's a strange one. Rene Laloux is the director on that one.
I wonder if he's got anything else. I've seen it.
He's also partly responsible for the movie Gandahar, which was also very trippy.
Here's this one. I've seen. Here it is, right here. I've seen that one. I have it somewhere. That Gandahar and the one you're talking, the Fantastic.
Yeah.
I like weird cartoons like Ralph Bakshi and all that stuff. The weird Lord of the Rings and all that stuff.
You should probably check out Invincible on Amazon Prime. Then it's got it's really bad stories, but bad gore. Superheroes crushing people's skulls and stuff. It's really gory.
I saw the first season of it. It's not bad. It's got some good actors in it. Seth Rogen's a Cyclops alien in it.
Is he?
So, yeah. It's by the guy that did Walking Dead comic book, Robert Kirkland. Robert Kirkland's doing what is it? Robert Zelaney, Amber, or something like that series that has Marilyn and stuff. They're doing a show of that. Which, I have those books, so I never read them. It's like a giant one that's like 4 phone books of those stories I bought. I never got around to reading it, but I know Marilyn and stuff's in it, so hopefully it's good.
Yeah.
But I'll check it out. I know Kirkman did a comic called Outcast that was really Brett Spiner was in it, and it came on Cinemax, so I think it got canceled. It was about these people getting possessed in this town. Brett Spiner was like the main fallen angel, but it was crazy as hell. But I think I
haven't heard of that one.
It's called Outcast. But that Brett Spiner, who was he again in Star Trek?
He was Data. He was the android Data.
That's who I thought. I was just making sure. My head.
And then he's the Dr. Oak on the Independence movies too.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the weird long-haired doctor on Independence Day and Independence Day 2.
All right, everybody. Well, I got to close out. It's JoJo time. So his show's up next, Joe Montaldo. Thanks, Marilyn. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Super JoJo. And I hope everybody has a good weekend. Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. And I'm going to see if there's a meeting tomorrow. I'll be there. I know you're moving, Jay, but I'll tell you if anything.
High in the Peruvian Andes lies a mysterious lost city. A 500-year-old riddle where ancient engineers moved 20-ton stones and constructed acres of steppe terraces to anchor the city to the mountain. Reluctant to divulge its secrets, the site has puzzled scientists since its discovery in 1911. Now, Machu Picchu on Modern Marvels. Perched on a ridge in the Peruvian Andes, 1,600